Hey friends. So I'm going to give a second for people to hop on, and also because I have to change my settings on my Facebook profile so that you guys can actually see this video and also comment. Okay. So if you're hopping on and you're watching, please say hi. And if you're watching from YouTube, please say hi. And if you're watching the replay, let me know as well. So if you hear noise in the background, it's because I'm like mastering laundry today, and that is like the vibe. This video came from, I actually did a video really early this morning inside of my team page for my business partners. I went live in there and I shared this practice that I've been doing because it's been helping me so much in business, and I explained how to use it in relationship to business building. But I thought about how useful this would be for like everyone to hear, simply because I think when it comes to the concept of manifestation, oftentimes we are familiar with it as a forward projecting thing. So we are familiar with manifesting as in, how do I visualize a desire in the future that I would like to have now? And if you're very, very well versed in the practice of manifestation, then you understand that the practice of creating in your now reality what you desire that you don't have yet is to embody it as if you already have it, right? That is essentially how you get something to come to pass that hasn't passed yet. It's not by thinking about it. It's kind of like a misconception about the law of attraction. It's like, oh, you think about what you want and then you get it. That's not how this works. You have to actually feel as if you already have it. And once you feel that way, you normalize it in your body. And upon normalizing it in your body and normalizing it in your field, then you begin to, it's not that you create a possibility from nowhere to manifest something, because multiple possibilities exist for us in multiple timelines all of the time. But when you get really clear about what it is that you want and you focus on embodying that feeling, you tap into a timeline per se. You select the timeline and you bring yourself closer to the reality of that manifest. That's how that works. So typically, when I teach about manifestation, or I've heard other people teach about manifestation, it's always in this kind of forward projecting thing. Like, what is it that you desire? How do you manifest the thing that you desire? But Neville Goddard, who happens to be someone that I've studied for a long time, he's one of my favorite mystics, American mystics for sure. He is such a fascinating teacher to me because he really embodies this just mystical personality and this absolute faith and trust in us being able to have and create anything that we want in reality. When he writes, when he speaks, there's like zero doubt in him that any single human being on the planet has access to these metaphysical principles and can use them to their benefit. So I really enjoy reading his stuff because it's very all-encompassing, and it feels when you're reading it and when you're in it or when you're listening to him that you are just embraced by this energy of total faith and confidence. So if you've never read his stuff, I highly recommend him. He's a brilliant teacher and a great metaphysical teacher. So the practice that he teaches that I think is very little spoken about and very little taught is the practice of revision. And this can work a couple of different ways. So one way revision works in a very simple manner is, let's say you have a really bad day. You wake up, things are going wrong left and right. Nothing seems to go your way. By the end of the day, you're just spent on how much things didn't go your way. You've had a really terrible day. Well, you can, right before you go to sleep, make an intention of about 10 to 15 minutes to sit upright and imagine your day as if you would have liked it to have gone, right? He also encourages the practice of writing. So you can write your day as if you would have liked it to have gone. But for me, imagining works really well. So you go back to the beginning of your day as if the day is starting over, and you think about how you would have ideally liked everything to go. And as you're imagining that and picturing that story again, you're in the feeling of it. So you're feeling the, oh my gosh, relief that this happened versus the other thing that actually happened. But you're not even paying attention, and you're not comparing what happened to what you wish had happened. You're just reimagining your day as you wanted it to go. Okay, that's the practice of revision. That's a simple way to use that practice. Another way to use the practice of revision is to go back into your memory, into an experience that you had that was not a good experience. It could have been traumatic, it could have been tragic, and this you have to be very sensitive with, depending on your level of trauma and trigger and how willing you are to travel into your memories. You know, there's some memories that are very difficult to access unless you have space being held for you. So be very conscious of where you are in your trauma healing. But you can go back to a memory and reimagine that memory as if it didn't happen, or in a completely different manner. And just revisit that revision enough times until you start to physically feel differently. And that's when you really know that the revision is working, is when you start to have a different feeling in your body when you think back on that timeline, or you even start to forget that memory. That can happen too. That's another way you can use revision. You can use it on the fly. Let's say you are going about your day and you have one situation that happens that just really bothers you. Like someone says something to you, or you forget something or something like that. You can go back, you can stop what you're doing and sit for 5 minutes and just reimagine that entire situation as if you had responded the way that you wanted to respond. That's a quick way to revise. And this seems very simple. And it seems almost like useless. Like, what would this actually do? But I want you guys to understand that your mind can't tell the difference between something you're imagining and something that's actually happening. Let me repeat that again. Your mind cannot tell the difference between something that you are imagining and something that is actually happening. This is very, very important for you to know, because for those of us who like to make dramas in our mind and imagine worst case scenarios 24/7, your mind really believes that is happening. This is why you can think about something and your body goes into a visceral sensation. Your heart starts racing, you start sweating, you get anxious, you start cringing, even though it's not happening. You can simulate that experience in your body just by thinking about something, okay? That's how you know the mind cannot tell the difference. So when you're going and you're revising a portion of your timeline, your mind doesn't know, did that really happen? Did it not happen? Like, it just starts to go with whatever you're feeding it, right? So eventually what starts to happen is whatever feelings you were harboring of guilt, shame, anger, resentment, they start to fade as you continue to revise, because that memory is no longer the way that you had it. It becomes something different, okay? And time is not a linear experience, which most of us think it is. It's happening all the time at the same time. Every point of your story, your history, your future is concurrent. You can also think of it as a spiral or a circle or, a wheel, sometimes interpreted that way. So you can really access any point of your timeline from where you are right now and create change. And in effect, every time you go back and revise something that happened in your past that created significant scarring emotionally or physically for you, it actually revises your future as well. It goes forward and it revises your future, because by default, you are no longer living those patterns that you had. Okay, so this is why revision is such a powerful practice, as simple as it sounds. And it's not simple, because your mind wants to wander and your mind doesn't want to do these activities. What I find happening is that when I sit to revise, my mind will be like thinking about this list or that list, or worrying about something or anxious about something. It doesn't want to sit and do what it's supposed to do. And so this is going to take a lot of discipline and focus for you to actually get your mind to do what you're telling it to do for you. Another situation, like, you can even revise things between people, and that is, of course, always with the intention of the highest good and never with like meddling with people's free will. But let's say in your family, there's a difficult relationship between your in-laws and you, or between your kids and someone in your family, or something's just really hard, right? There's a way that they interact that just doesn't feel good. You can actually go into your mind and revise those experiences and those memories so that you start to see this family member as being, instead of being rigid and difficult, you start to see them as compassionate and cooperative. You start to imagine them having conversations with your kids or conversations with you, and they're completely different. They're so nice, they're so generous, they're so helpful, right? And as you start to revise this relationship in your mind, you will be amazed what actually starts to happen in your relationship in real life. It's kind of like a magic wand. And so I have been using this practice for my own relationships, with my family members, with my partner, with being a parent, with my business, with my attitude towards being pregnant, and just my relationship to my body. And it's been really fascinating to go back and revise the difficult memories, because that's what we do. We're struggling with something and we're always looking for evidence of, obviously, this is why we're going to struggle, and we're going to struggle forever. It's like, well, see, this isn't working, and it's not working because XYZ thing. This happens a lot in relationships. It's like, well, I just can't ever have a good relationship to my partner because, you know, he's like this, or she does this, or blah, 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 blah. And we just regurgitate past. So if you went back and did a revision of all those things you want to say, all those reasons you want to give for why you can't have a good relationship to your partner, and rewrote them in a way that you would appreciate something about them instead of taking away something from them, how differently would you feel towards your partner after just a month of that practice? That's worth doing. I know it sounds, a month, like tedious maybe, but it's worth doing if you could dramatically change your experience of reality. And this works with things like money too, not like just intangible things. It works with like creating the reality, the experience of attracting certain amounts of money or certain opportunities to you by going into your mind and revising whatever story you have about why you never get opportunities, or why you're never successful at opportunities, or why something hasn't worked out for you, or why, whatever the story is. By going in and revising those stories, you begin to change your general appeal, basically your magnetic appeal in the field of the all that is. And that is how you begin to attract differently. This is also can be called subconscious work. It's a form of subconscious work. It's very simple. It's very simple. And I think a lot of us overcomplicate how quickly we can change our reality, or how responsive our minds are. And the practices of creation or change or revision, they're not hard. None of that is hard. What's hard is mastering the discipline enough to sit and do it. What's hard is getting over our own, basically our own resistance to changing our reality, because, oh, it's not going to work. This is taking too long. That's impossible. All those things that we say to ourselves, that's the stuff that's hard. It's hard to get past that stuff. But if you really accepted these practices as like, okay, this works, and I'm going to do this because I believe that it works 100%, and really allowed yourself to lean into them, I would pretty much guarantee that anybody who takes this on for the next month of their life would have a completely different experience of reality come January than we're having right now. And in fact, I would be very curious to see if we revise 2020 as an entire year, as a collective, like what could happen, right? And maybe you had a very difficult 2020. Maybe you individually, outside of all the stuff we've all collectively been experiencing, maybe your 2020 was super hard. So how would revising your 2020 from January to now change this entire year for you, and end it on a note that you're happy to begin the next year with, instead of ending it on a note that feels burdensome? Because how we end everything is how we begin everything, so on and so forth, right? That's not how we want to end this year. So my invitation to you is for the next month to get very serious about picking something in your life that you want to revise, and revisiting that either in the morning or in the evening before you go to bed, and making that a steady practice for yourself, and seeing how your reality changes as you revise over and over and over again these situations in your mind, and distill them down into the desired situation, and see if your memory changes, if your feelings in your body change, your emotions change. That's always so fascinating to me. I don't see any questions while I'm going, so I'm going to give you guys a second to post any if you have them. Also, quick announcements. Today is the very last day to take advantage of my fitness sale. So if you've seen my posts, you've watched my stories, all of our fitness bundles are on sale. Today is that last day for that sale because next month we're launching a brand new program, which I'm excited about. I won't be able to do because I'm pregnant, but I'm excited for everybody else who's going to be doing it, and I'll be talking about it then. But I didn't want to miss out on an opportunity to tell you guys that today is the last day. So if you're wanting to get something for yourself, if you're wanting to commit to your health and fitness journey starting in 2021, and you want to get set up, then this is your invite to do that. I had another, also tonight I'm doing full moon, basically astro energy report on the full moon in Gemini. So if you're not part of my Patreon community, it's only for Patreon members. So you can join us. It's just patreon.com/ShaktiTV and become a member, and you'll have access to that and all the other content that I share in there. I actually shared a piece of content in there today with really helpful links about VACCINESs. So you guys can go check that out. It is a public post. That one is public, so anybody can go look at it, whether you're a member or not, but I didn't want to post it on my social media because I didn't want to get censored. But the rest of the stuff is private. So if you'd like to join us for that and potentially have a live reading done for you, which is always a possibility if you're on during those live events, you can join us there. All right. So if you're watching the replay, if you have any questions about anything that I've just shared, please drop me a line and let me know. And happy manifesting.